Well, this is definitely one of those daddy stories, and I've told this story quite a few times, and I'm sort of quite used to it. Well, it goes back, this story goes back to how things were when the Soviet Union broke up, and things are very, very unstable, and it's very hard to quite explain how unstable things were. You may have wondered where all the brothers and sisters came from in Ukraine and Moldova. Well, this is one explanation of where they came from. Well, there I was living in Lithuania, in Vilnius, and I had some contacts in Ukraine, and I thought, well, I will go down to Ukraine and see these folks and do a few things. And in those days, there were obviously no cell phones, no internet, no email, and no self-drive car hire, so everything was all, on the buses, trains, and so on. So I, I understood that there was actually now self-drive car hire in Ukraine, and I thought, well, that'd be great. I'll go down there and get a car and drive around Ukraine and so forth. So I did, but I was involved with a committee that were paying some of the expenses, and they were very insistent that you can't submit bills after the event. You've got to agree it with us first of all. So I agreed. Yes, the car hire is going to cost so much. Yeah, that's all good. And petrol costs so much. Okay. And then they said, well, you've got to pay a deposit on the vehicle of whatever it was. I think it was 800 American dollars. We didn't have euros in those days. It was all US dollars and Deutschmarks, but mainly US. Well, they told me that last minute, and I thought, well, I better take my own money. I can't ask this committee to come up with the money. This would be, they haven't agreed the expenditure. I thought, well, that's okay. I'll take out insurance on the vehicle. So it's okay. But I'll put this down as like the deposit. I'll take my own money. And in those days, things were very unstable, and I thought, well, going around there, I better just have some money in my back pocket just in case. So I remember clearly going to the bank in Vilnius, and I took out pretty well all the money that I had in the bank in cash in US dollar banknotes. Came to nearly $2,000, which might not sound an awful lot in these days, but of the 1990 or whatever, of 91, of the collapse of the Soviet Union, that was a fortune. And anyway, I took this in cash, and it was like my own money. And I was what I had, and I took it there in cash. So I went to Kiev, went to the airport as I flew, and yeah, this car was there, and the brand new Lada. And I said, you've got to pay, I think it's 800 or something like that, in cash. That's the guarantee in case you just disappear with a vehicle or the vehicle gets totally stolen or something like that. Well, okay, I paid this money and they gave me the receipt, and off I drove in this brand new Lada. And well, I was driving, and well, it broke down, and pretty badly. I think it was the clutch that was shot. Wasn't probably aligned. I had no clutch alignment tool. I couldn't fix it. And so there I was by the side of the highway out of Dnipro, and quite a few hundred kilometers from Kiev. And well, I pulled over. I looked at it. I flagged guys down. Well, nobody. Everyone said, looks like the clutch is shot. Sorry, mate, can't help you. And I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose the money on the car. Um, okay, so the truck driver stopped. He had a look at it and said, no. He said, look, I'm going to a depot on the edge of Dnipro. I'll give you a ride just into the on the very outskirts of the city. There's a city of, I don't know, a few million people. I'll give you a ride to the edge of the city. That's all I can do for you, mate. And I said, okay, just take a few photographs of me, can you? This guy took these photographs. I still got them somewhere or other of me with this brand new red Lada, the registration plate clear. I thought, well, maybe obviously weren't digital photos. I thought I'll develop these photos and I'll show it to the car hire company, do due diligence and all that. I thought for sure in this environment this is going to get stolen. This vehicle, a brand new car, I'll leave it there and it's going to be stolen and so on. Well, I prayed to God and I was sort of starting to get angry with God. I thought, well, that's my money that's going to go. That's like all that money going to go. Anyway, this guy took me to the edge of town and I thought, well, I better get into the center. And all I thought about was phoning the company. So all I could think about was to phone the company. I had their phone number, but in those days, no cell phones, and you couldn't call internationally from like public call boxes. Public call boxes were only within the little local area. And all I wanted to do was to get a telephone, was to find somehow, somewhere, a phone and call the company. That was all I could think of doing. So I was dropped off by this guy on the edge of the city, and there was this huge tower block, office block, very tall. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go in there. Maybe they got a phone. I can phone Kia, phone the number of the company. I had no idea what this tall office block was, and I walked in there, and as soon as I'd walked through the revolving doors, there was like the doorman came on me. There I was, bloke with a rucksack on my back, and it's like, who? What are you here for? Who do you want? I had no idea. It could have been the police office, could have been the headquarters of the secret police, for all I knew. And this guy just caught me out of left field. My whole theme in all these chats is when you're weak, then you're strong. I was angry with God because I thought you've cleaned me out of my money. That money I paid as a deposit on the car, someone's going to steal that car, probably already stolen. All I need to do is to phone the company and tell them. Well, I didn't like to say, well, I just come here to see if I can use the telephone. He said, who do you want to see? I said, I just made up some Russian name out of the top of my head, just typical Russian name. I said, Alexei Alexeyevich. Alexei Alexeyevich. Yeah. He said, and what floor is that? I said, I thought seven's a good number, like perfect number and all that. I said, the seventh floor. Ah, sixth floor, actually. Alexei Alexeyevich is on the sixth floor. Ah, right you are, I said. Smile soon came off my face and all my politeness disappeared as I got into the lift. And this bloke was watching me, the doorman. I pressed 6. And in the what, not even 60 seconds it took to go up, I was praying to God, like, God help me, I don't know where I am. I'm going to see a bloke called Alexei Alexeyevich. I don't know where I am. This place could be the KGB headquarters. It could be anything. And I was not in a good spiritual mood because I was angry that God had sort of taken that money off me, as it were, so it seemed to me. It was a lot of money for me in those days. And well, I thought, I don't know where I am, Lord, I'm in your hands, but I'm sort of kind of angry with you. And therefore, when I came out of the lift, well, there was this office girl kind of walking down the corridor, looked at me and said, sort of, can I help you, sir? And I said, Alexei Alexeyevich, please. I said, end of the corridor, last office on the right, or whatever it was. She disappeared into her little office. I was walking down this corridor, and I was looking at what's on the doors, like redactor, editor, zamredactor, or whatever, like assistant editor. Oh, this is a newspaper office. Well, I get down the end of the corridor and I see, yeah, Alexei Alexeyevich. I mean, yeah, sometimes God puts ideas into your head. It's what I would call the work of the Spirit, that bit over and above what you want, what you can do. I don't know why I said Alexei Alexeyevich, and I don't know why I guessed 7th floor when it was the 6th floor. But anyway, and I got to his door, and it was written like Adjel Reklam, like advertising department. Well, I was standing there and the door opened and the doorman had obviously phoned up to Alexei Alexeyevich. And he said, Alexei Alexeyevich. And I said, oh, Duncan Heister. And he welcomed me in there. And of course, he was expecting me to come there in order to do some sort of like business with him. And he said, like, what do you want? And I said, well, you're the advertising manager. Yes, he said, I'm the advertising manager. Well, I went there, and of course, all I was interested in was on his table there was this telephone. I thought, he's got a telephone. That's just what I want. Then I can phone to Kiev. But I didn't feel I could just say, sorry, mate, I just come here to use your phone. Oh, he suggests, well, what are you interested in advertising? And I said, free Bible literature. Oh, yes, he said, yes, yes. Have you got the maquette? It's in English, like artwork, like block, I think you say. Like, have you got the block? Like, have you got a artwork made up? Bloke with a rucksack on my back. I said, actually, I don't have. Um, Oh, that's no problem. They gave me a piece of paper and I wrote out this simple advert, whatever. I was advertising in those days on my P.O. Box in Vilnius, 1903, P.O. Box 1903, Vilnius 2012, I remember to this day. And, he said, yes, layout department can do that. And, what size? And we went through this. And he was a good salesman. He was talking me through it, and it's going to cost so much. And then he said, but you know what? I'm the manager also for a whole network of newspapers all over Ukraine and Moldova. Well, he talked me up that, we can do this multiple times. Your message is going to get out to all these people. I'm thinking, yeah, give this guy the money, and how do I know? I'm a guy living in Vilnius in Lithuania. How do I know whether you're going to publish it? You put the money in your pocket. And anyway, but then I thought, well, I reckon, God, that you obviously want this, don't you? Because I wouldn't have figured where this office was. I wouldn't have figured how to put these adverts out. Um, anyway, so there are loads of big, like quarter page or whatever it was, half page or whatever adverts. All of Ukraine is going to see this. And he talked me into it, and I was thinking, well, I just blown 800 down down a car hire place, and I've lost the car. Um, I think I got him down from whatever it was to about 800, as I remember, dollars. And I remember the committee, these brethren back in the UK, who were like, no expenditure, like just presented. Um, you've got to agree this ahead of time. They were good brethren. They were good brethren, not complaining. I mean, I'd be the same. Some young guy like me comes and says, oh, by the way, here's a bill for, if it was $1,000 or whatever. I'd be, oh, wait a minute. We didn't agree that expenditure. We've got to go to the Brotherhood, raise the money and all that. Fair enough. You can't have people just spending money on a committee just on their whim. And I thought, well, I remembered those brethren, and I thought, well, and those like committee meetings used to have whenever I was back in the UK, and I thought, man, it wouldn't even be worth going there to explain all this to them. No, they wouldn't. And I thought, yeah, but God, you want me to do this, don't you? And I was pretty angry. I thought, God, you cleared me out of my 800. This is back in 1990, 91. It's a lot of money for me. You cleared me out of my 800, and you're going to clear me out of another 800. So anyway, I paid the guy, and these adverts are going to be printed, blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, I don't know, maybe you won't even print them. He did, and that's why loads of people got baptized in Ukraine and Moldova. And if you go to a Ukrainian Bible school today and ask people, how did you come to the Lord? A lot of them will say, oh, because of my relative or because of an older generation. And if you ask them, where did they come from? They saw an advert in a newspaper. Well, that was all from this. Anyway, when I finished it, then I got, of course, round to what I really wanted to do, which was to use his telephone. Is there anything else I can do for you? I said, yes, sir. Could I just use your telephone, please, to call Kiev? Which is why I was there. Yes, you can use telephone to call Kiev. Yes, you're very welcome, sir. And I was angry with God, and there was the phrase that was going through my mind: God, you cleaned me out. God, you cleaned me out. I was really annoyed with God. That was a lot of money for me, and I felt, God, you cleaned me out with a car hire company, and now you send me up to this press advertising agency where you put me in no choice. Any kind of like believer, as I saw it, would have to agree that this was of God, this was of His plan, and I had to spend this money. And I was angry, I'll tell you. I was going God's way, but on the other side of me, there was this God, you clean me out. God, you clean me right out. Now, I used to say back then, as I still say today, look, everything we've got is from God. You know, Job, the Lord gave and the Lord takes away. It's not our money, it's His. He can use it as He wants. Don't be bitter about it. If anything happens in life and you lose something, well, it's all of God, and don't worry about it. That's all from God. Don't worry. Very easy to say that, and talk is cheap when it comes, especially to money. Talk's very cheap, isn't it? Talk's cheap, and I've said that. I said it back then. I say it now. But when it actually comes to actually living it, it's not so easy. And there I was angry. When it actually came to it, I wasn't piously saying, oh, the Lord gave and the Lord take away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. No, I was like, God, you clean me out. You clean me, absolutely shut me right out. Anyway, so in that frame of mind, I got onto the car hire company on the telephone. Oh, Mr. Easter, oh yes, we've been wanting to talk to you. About the car, yes, I said, about the car. I had to abandon it on the side of whatever the highway was. The clutch, seems to me, has totally slipped off, and I've taken photographs of myself standing by the car, and I've hitchhiked into Dnepro. Oh, yes, yes, we know all this, we know all this. I said, how do you know this? He said, well, as it happened, our manager was driving to Kharkov, and he went through along that, I think it was to Kharkov. Anyway, he was driving beyond Dnepro. And oh, the chap said it was what a strange, really, because he accidentally, when he left, he accidentally left with all the spare keys to all the cars in his car. And yes, he spotted our car, our brand new Lada, by the side of the road, and he's got a what do you call it? Evacuator. What do you call it? Like so tow truck, right? Um, like to come out and to take your car or our car back to the service place. It's all okay. I thought, well, how freaky is that? How freaky is that? So there I was, not in the best of moods with God, and then he did this absolute miracle. I phone, and the guy says, "Oh yes, our boss was driving there, so it's a few hundred kilometers out of Kiev, and I happen to have all the spare keys of our fleet of vehicles in his car by mistake, and yep, he's taken care of it." I said, will I lose my deposit? No, no, of course you won't lose your deposit. Thank God for that. And Alexei Alexeyevich, the advertising manager, was listening to the conversation. It was on his telephone in his office. And I think the bloke was like totally blown away. It was like, so you didn't actually come, sort of, why you come to me then and put adverts in? I said, oh, well, that's sort of part of my plan. Well, I meant part of God's plan. Anyway, so, I was sort of, pretty high, sort of thing. After that, sorry, God, for being cranky with you. I'm really sorry. So I walked out of this big office past the doorman, and I thought, well, I better get into the town centre, the city centre, and get a train. Um, well, I was standing there, and I just stood. There was a sort of trolley bus stop, and there were no trolley buses, and I stood there for a long time, apparently. And I was just praying to God with my eyes open, wandering around, pacing up and down. I was praying to God and asking to forgive me. In those days, there were a lot of people who just weren't getting paid their money, and they would just, if they had a car, they were driving around, called chasniki, like driving around, picking up anyone just to, as taxis, as it were, to get some money. Some of them had little taxi signs on, some of them didn't. There was no uh, sort of call up. What you did if you wanted to book a taxi was to phone a taxi company, and they would then send their guy out to where you were. People didn't have cell phones, etc. Well, this bloke, I sort of noticed him, was in this taxi opposite, sort of with his looking at me, and he'd been there a long time. And eventually he drove over to me. And he said, you called me, didn't you? You called for a taxi to come here, to take you to the railway station. I said, I do need to go to the railway station, but I didn't call you. And he said, yes, you did. You came out of the press office just at the time when we'd agreed, but you've just been pacing up and down here, mucking around, not coming over to see me. I said, no, I didn't call you. Yes, you did. And he said, well, your accent and the way you talk. He said, I actually took the call in the office. He said, it was you. He said, I admit it's not exactly your voice, but maybe the the telephone line distorted it. But it's very similar accent to how you speak. I was speaking in Russian. It's very similar accent to how you speak and the way you're talking. This was you who called me. I said, I didn't call you. It was like Samuel and Eli. You called me. No, Eli says, I didn't call you. And Samuel says, but you called me. And no, I didn't call you. But this guy kept saying, but you called me. I said, I didn't call you. Anyway, I said, look, mate, I need to go to the railway station. You go to the railway station. Well, that's exactly what the call said, that you needed to go to the railway station from the press office. I said, well, I don't know what happened, but it wasn't me. He said, you're a very strange guy. You come out of the press office, you looked at me. Well, I didn't, but not consciously. And then you're just pacing up and down, mucking around for ages. And now you've wasted my time. Time's money. I can't argue with you, mate. I want to go to the railway station. Okay. Well, we got stuck in traffic, which is from God. And he said, I'm a surgeon, but we haven't been paid for months. So he said, I put food on the table. I happen to have a car. This was before, obviously, in the communist days, when surgeons did get paid. He said, I'm a surgeon, but I'm just driving around trying to get a bit of cash. And so I said, I said, I'm telling you the truth. But what I said, he said, oh well, anyway. But he said, we started talking about God, and I gave him um, Bible literature, the stuff that we had, correspondence course, and so forth. The early version of Bible Basics in Russian. It was not all printed out, and I gave him my address in Vilnius, and I said, you write to me at that address, read this stuff. And he was really interested in God and the Bible, really interested. He wasn't getting answers, but he was really interested. Well, I eventually got back, and this guy wrote to me and said, yeah, I've read all your stuff. I believe all this. And I sent him some more stuff. And he wrote back, this is all days of snail mail, yes, I believe this. I want to be baptized. But in every letter he said, and sort of P.S., I still don't believe you about not calling me. And anyway, the bloke, the bloke was sort of very, very keen in all his answers. Well, I was going out to Ukraine again with an older brother from the UK. And I said, well, let's go and see this guy. I said, I've had a lot of correspondence with him. He wants to be baptized. Oh, yes, very good. So him and I met this guy, and the British brother interviewed him. He spoke some English, this surgeon, taxi driver come surgeon. And, oh, very good. Yes, let's do the baptism. Well, we couldn't get hot water was off. There was a terrible situation in Ukraine in those days. It was awful. All we could get was a sauna with freezing cold water. It was really cold. And the taxi driver guy was very keen, yes. And so there was the three of us, this older brother from the UK, myself, and the taxi driver surgeon. And the British brother said, well, I'll be doing the immersion. I'll be doing the baptism. I said, okay. Well, when we got to the plunge pool of the sauna, there was bits of ice floating about on it. I mean, it was really freezing. And well, this old British guy sort of he's dead now in the Lord, but asleep in the Lord. But he sort of said, "Oh no, I don't think I'm gonna. I'm gonna do this. It might damage my testicles." And his wife had died. He said, "And I'm thinking of remarrying." Well, I was not in the best of moods about all this. He said, "Oh, well, you do it, Duncan." Okay. I'll do it. I wasn't married, I had kids or anything by then, but anyway. So, okay. And the taxi driver guy said, "No, no, I want the older man to do it. I want the British guy to do it, not you." He didn't trust me because he thought I'd lied to him. And, well, okay. He sort of agreed I could do it. So we went in the water. And I said, "Do you believe the things, about the kingdom in the name of Jesus?" "Yes, I do." And so, "Okay, I'm going to baptize you." The guy's body went absolutely rigid. I said, "Oh, come on, go under. Come on, go under." And he wouldn't go under the water. And I thought, oh, God, you work in such a complex way, and now you bring me to this point where it's like Isaiah says, "The children that come to the birth, and who has no strength to bring them forth." You take a man right up to the limit. What are you playing at, Father? I believe in you, but as the AV says, "Verily, thou art a God that hidest thyself, a God of Israel, the Saviour." Well, this is not, and I was not in the best of moods, I'll tell you. Well, I got it. I said, "Look, I'm going to stand here hugging with you in this freezing water. I mean, let's get out." So we got out. The British guy was going like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I said, "This is a very, very long story. Well, why are you going to be baptized?" And I was in a really bad mood because I was sort of making certain slightly crude, inevitably, really comments in my mind, I suppose. Well, not inevitably, but you know what I'm saying. About the British guy, that he didn't have the balls to do it, and if he'd have had the balls, well, he did have the balls, but you know what I'm saying. If if he'd have had the balls to do it, then the baptism would have happened, but he didn't, and so the baptism didn't happen. And I wasn't in the best of moods. This is what I keep saying. That in all these times, I wasn't pious and spiritual and godly, but God still uses you. That, well, me anyway. That's the story. That's the story. And anyway, we sat down in this sauna. There was a table and three chairs, and the three of us sat down. And I looked this taxi driver guy in the face, and he looked at me, and he said, "Tell me, just fess up and admit you called me." And I said, "I didn't call you." "Ah," he said, "look, I don't want to be baptized by somebody who can't tell the truth." I said, "Look, truth is stranger than fiction." And I started at the beginning. And I told him the whole story that I've told you. And I've told this story many times at sort of variety evenings and stuff, and the Ukraine Bible schools. So I've sort of got to know the story. And I told him the story from start to finish. And I said, because of that, there's loads of people in Ukraine writing to me about the Bible because of those adverts. And he said, "Tell me that again." Told him it again. The British guy was going, "What are you talking about?" They're talking in Russian. Okay, I told him the whole story. And I thought, wow, this is very weird. And then his face burst into a smile. And he said, "Truth is stranger than fiction, and actually, I believe you. It's got the ring of truth to it because it's got the ring of God to it." So back we went into the water, and I baptized him, and he was a very good brother. And his family were baptized, and also a friend of their families were baptized. And this was many years ago now. A few years ago, that friend of the family who was baptized at that time, well, those years anyway, said to me, "Duncan, my daughter is whatever, 18, 19, she'd like to be baptized." So I met her, and the three of us, the mother and the 19-year-old daughter, whatever, we went out to a lake through the forest in central Ukraine. Mum took a packed lunch, and we sat and ate it, and we read Romans 6, and the girl, or young lady, gave a good confession of her faith. I did a little baptism service, and I said, we said, "Well, let's go do it. Let's go to the water." Okay. Then I said, "Before we go, let me tell you a story." And I told her the story that I've told you and that I've told at Ukraine Bible schools many times, and a story that I told back then when it happened. And the three of us, well, we just quite naturally got on our knees. It was summer. We got on our knees and we thanked God. And I went and baptized that young lady. Well, you shake your head. You really shake your head at the, as Russians say, Puti Господни неисповедимые. The ways of the Lord are unsearchable. How unsearchable are his judgments, as Paul says, and his ways past finding out. All I can say is you got to keep with the process. Don't get offended with God. Don't get angry with God like I have been. Don't get cranky. Keep with the process. Just keep with the process. And just go with it. And I say it's easy to say, just go with it. Very easy to say that. But go with it. And God is a great God. And in the end, everything works out in a beautiful way. When we come to God's kingdom, that's how it's going to be. We're going to look back and say, that's how it had to be. Everybody played their little part in our path, your path, my path to God's kingdom.